Welcome back to February 1 podcast season 2 episode 9
in English.
Thank you, babe. I think most of them knew that.
Just let everybody know, just in case you didn't know what 9.
Hey y'all, it's Trey.
Hey y'all, it's Aaron.
And welcome back to February 1 podcast. A podcast still birthed from the love of faith, family, and a unique perspective.
It's season 2, baby.
And action. I am excited to be back for another episode.
I'm like ecstatic. I don't know if you can see it in my face, but
if you're watching the YouTube version of this, they can see it. They can see your Cheshire grin.
Ooh, Cheshire. I
Thank
love the
you.
little SAT word.
I was going to say it's an SAT word.
It is. I like it. You're trying to smarten up the group that our listeners are,
You know, I'm trying to smarten up you and I. Take us to another level.
Take us. Baby girl.
Okay, seriously though, on a serious note, I'm very excited about this episode. The other thing I'm really excited about is this Kool-Aid that I made.
It kind of looks like the on the Geico commercial where they hired the scary witch lady to cook for them. And then somebody
Don't come for my Kool-Aid. The one where she's mixing in the kitchen?
Yeah, and then she turns one of them into a cat.
It actually does look like that, because if you know anything about our household, you know that a Kool-Aid flavor is never what it looks like. It's never what it meets the eye to be.
Exactly.
Okay, I always...
If it's purple, it tastes like fruit punch.
Right.
If it's green, it tastes like orange. I don't know what's going on.
No, it's so true, because I always usually have the kids pick which two flavors they want to mix.
Yes.
So today's mixture is brought to you by grape Kool-Aid with strawberry kiwi flavoring. It's actually really good.
That sounds like Liv. That sounds like
I was actually really excited about it. It's actually Kanan.
Oh.
We randomly picked it. But I'm really excited about it because I feel real official, because the grape touches the front end of your palate, but it's followed right up by the strawberry kiwi.
The fact that you even try to use all of your TV training on Top Chef and all those shows you watch on Netflix about cooking to try and describe this porridge of Kool-Aid is pretty spectacular.
You stay coming for me, bro. But low key, your comebacks are hitting. Like they landing pow pow.
You know, call me Powder Puff Girl.
Okay, no. Seriously, though, we're going to get into this episode because I think it's a very interesting topic.
It is.
It's one that, if I have to be real with myself, I'm not going to be the expert on this.
Okay, all right.
But I love it because, I love this topic because it's going to challenge me to push outside of my comfort zone a little bit.
I'm with it.
This was your topic. Yes. Babe, can you tell them a little bit about what is episode 9 going to be about?
So episode 9 is going to be about betting on oneself, or betting on yourself.
Not oneself, Shakespeare.
Yourself, okay? Because this theme kind of comes up, anybody who knows me knows I'm a Cowboys fan, and this is a Cowboys household.
No, it's not.
This is a Cowboys household.
Half Eagles, half Cowboys.
She decided to be a Raiders fan this year, so I don't know
it's our inaugural year in Vegas.
Who cares? So pretty much, this is just on the heels of Dak Prescott pretty much betting on himself the past 2 seasons, and pretty much, I'm not sure if he got the goose egg yet, but as many of you saw, he got hurt and broke his ankle. And it's pretty serious.
A fracture or something.
Yeah, it was a fractured ankle, so pretty much he was betting on himself to try and get that huge contract.
Yeah, but you need to explain that, because not everybody watches football and knows the situation with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, the owner.
All right. So Dak Prescott is the second black quarterback that the Cowboys have ever had.
which is another, which is, it speaks for itself.
Well, the Eagles have only had one, which was
Michael Vick.
Oh no, three actually. Randall Cunningham, Donovan McNabb, and your boy Michael Vick, right? But anyway, so Dak Prescott is the second, and he was a 4th-round pick back in 2016. And they let him play out all of his 4 years with the little money that he was making.
Barely a contract. He didn't have a lot of money.
So the 4th year of that contract, that was the highest earning he had made, which was $1 million.
Oh my God! And for what he's been doing for the Cowboys, that's like
Exactly.
The disrespect is so real.
So usually quarterbacks who are franchise quarterbacks do not make it to that 4th year. They usually get paid on that 2nd year, that 3rd year, and usually the 4th year. But what the Cowboys decided to do was to franchise tag him, which is usually the franchise tag is to give the teams a lot more time to be able to negotiate a contract. Mm-hmm. But instead, what teams are using it to do is to it's like a prove it, like prove us wrong, prove that you're worth it, right? And so Dak Prescott, for the 2nd year in a row, going into a season where he didn't have a contract and no guarantees that he would be taken care of. He actually went into this season signing the franchise tag, and that so most of the top maybe 5 or 7 quarterbacks are in the $35 to $40 million a year.
Dang, they're making, and Dak is making $1 million.
Dak, after he signed the franchise tag, made 31.
Okay,
31 million, which is still a little bit below what the top 5 to 7 quarterbacks make.
Okay.
Right? The Cowboys did offer him a contract, but then this year, on a 1-year deal, he got hurt just last week, fractured his ankle, and now his status is pretty much in limbo because he betted on himself, right? There's been a lot of
So instead of doing what?
So instead of actually signing like a 35-year deal for 5 years, he decided that he wasn't going to take that
because it was a low ball number.
It was a low ball number.
Okay.
Yes, because he believes he deserves $40 million a year.
Okay, so he betted on himself with this season, and this season he was supposed to prove that he was worth that $40 million.
Yes,
and if he went out there, balled out, had a great season, the Cowboys would have no choice but to pay him.
Which he was having. He was leading the league in yards, and he was leading the league.
I mean, babe, I know you're a fan. There were 3 games in. Okay. So,
but he was balling like it was. So there was.
But their record was like 1-3, baby.
But that had nothing to do with that. That's the reason why
he's not balling if the team's not winning. Just to be real.
No, okay? But I get it. But the reason why the team was losing wasn't because of Dak Prescott. Like there's a lot of other factors, right?
Yeah. But so essentially, he betted on himself. He went into this season saying, "I know I have the confidence that I can prove that I'm worth this $40 million.
Yes.
I'm not going to take this low ball number. I'm gonna push that contract away and bet on myself."
Exactly.
And then in the process of that, in week 4 of the season,
yes, he fractured his ankle. He on a weird tackle.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was heartbreaking to watch. If you all have not watched it, I would go back.
Literally, I wouldn't watch the actual tackle. It was really gross because his ankle was going the other way, his foot was going the other way. But it was really disheartening. Like I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I really cried because. Like in that moment,
cried. Okay, babe.
I know, I really did.
Okay.
It got
That's a little extra.
No, okay, but
especially for the 1-3 team. But
so if you guys don't know, like I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, and so for Dak to be playing on this contract, all the disrespect that he gets for being a Cowboys quarterback, like Tony Romo was the worst
and got more respect than Dak.
Exactly,
that's a shame.
Exactly. So pretty much the whole idea is Dak betting on himself, right? In this case, he lost, right?
Right.
But in most cases, like where, I'm not saying that you win, but are you willing to bet on yourself in order to get the results that you're looking for?
And that's why I love this topic, because I think straight offhand, my answer in most of my life situations would be no. Like, no, bro.
Why?
Like, let me just take that. You know how they say a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Okay. Meaning that whatever you have in your hand is worth. Is that what the saying is?
I've never heard the saying, so
Babe,
I was just gonna.
A bird in your hand is worth 2 in the bush. I think that's it. Okay.
I don't know who told you that.
Essentially.
A bird. Okay, let's move forward because I don't know.
Essentially, the idea is whatever you actually have in your hands is worth way more than something that's elusive or something that you currently don't have. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's essentially how I have been living my life, bro. Okay. But I think that I mean, you're going to have to give your own answer, but I think who you are is totally the antithesis of who I am.
Yeah, I totally would bet on myself 100% of the time.
All the time, bro.
100%.
Even if you have no experience, nothing. You don't even have a bird in the hand, and you'll bet on yourself.
I'm going to bet on myself because I know I trust myself. I know, like, I'd rather rely on myself than worry about how somebody else values me. Because I value myself at a high level.
So initially, my answer is no. Are you willing to bet on yourself? In a lot of my situations, no. For you, yes. But can you kind of define, or when you think of what it means to bet on yourself, what does that mean to you?
I think that just means to have the utmost confidence in the product or the utmost confidence in who and what you can provide a company, your family, yourself, whatever it is, that you're 100% confident, that you have no doubts, that you're willing to put in the time, the effort, just anything to get the result that you're looking for. And that's, to me, that's betting on yourself.
Oh, okay, wait. So your definition of betting on yourself is not only to place faith in yourself every time, it's also having faith that you'll do the work.
Yes.
Okay.
Like even if I don't have any experience, like I know I used to go into every interview and I used to say, even though if I knew something about that job, I would say, you know what? I'm coming in here and act as if I don't know a thing because I know for a fact that I'm going to take the time to learn what this company does and make it my own and make it better. That was always
Okay.
So I trust my work ethic.
Right. So so you trust your work ethic. Okay,
Yes.
I like that. That's my same definition too.
Okay.
I think betting on yourself means having the faith and the confidence to step out and take a chance.
Okay.
And I think obviously that investment is you, right? Whether that's, like you said, maybe taking a new job,
Yes.
for starters, right? Something maybe that you haven't done before. That's like betting on yourself.
Exactly.
The quintessential definition of what I think betting on yourself is I think of like entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And people who
Yes.
literally, I was talking, we have a management. My management team, we have a management meeting every morning.
Yes.
And so you know the meetings. But one of the people on our management team was talking about how her friend literally quit her job recently. Was supposed to open up her business in March, which is, if you know, that was like a month after the pandemic hit.
You're right. Well, that's when the pandemic hit. It was in March.
Well,
when we shut down.
December.
Yeah.
But But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So she was supposed to open in March, and essentially she didn't. So now she quit her job before that. Do you know what I mean? And so now her situation is that she's looking to open her shop in November now.
Okay.
So she's still stepping out on faith.
That's
but
good.
her friend is like, this is everything I have. Like literally this is it. And for me, I don't know if I'm that type of woman. I don't know if and that's the thing that scares me the most, you know? And I've talked about it in previous episodes, how much I respect and love entrepreneurs because I feel like I couldn't do it and I know you have that spirit.
Yes.
But I think I find it really, really, really hard to bet on yourself when there is no safety net.
That's true. I mean, but that's the fun in it, right? Like it's balls to the wall. You can't give up on yourself. You have to do it.
You have to make it happen.
You have to make it happen, right? Like, I mean, I don't, like, sometimes when I think about it, like, when I hear, like, Tyler Perry talk about, like, I was sleeping in my car.
Right.
Like, that scares me. Like, I got 3 kids and we're going to sleep in the car.
Right.
You know, or what's the movie with Will Smith and Jada?
Pursuit of Happiness.
You know, sleeping in the subway, you know,
Yeah.
or the bathroom, you know. And
well, okay, the thing about that to me is we hear all of those stories, right? They have movies over and over and over again.
But I really feel like that's part of the struggle, you know. That's a part of it. I mean, sometimes it's not, right? But sometimes that's a part of that. I'm going for it and I'm going to get it and it's mine.
But the guy in the Pursuit of Happiness movie
He
was
made
like
a lot of bad decisions.
one
though.
subway bathroom away from being the guy on the corner that we pass every day.
That's true.
Do you know what I
That's
mean?
true.
Like, that's the thing that scares me. We hear about the success stories, but what about the stories that are not being told?
The Into the Wild type of story.
Yes. So that's the thing that scares me about betting on yourself. You know?
For sure. But I mean, have you? Well, you obviously you haven't bet on yourself, or have you ever bet on yourself in a situation?
Okay, I was thinking about this in preparation, obviously, for this episode, and I was thinking I absolutely have betted on myself before.
Have you?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, how you set it up was like never. Okay, 'cause I gotta get the bag.
Well, okay. The funny thing is like, in my current position on my job, I feel like I betted on myself.
You
right?
did. You
Like,
actually did.
Like okay, so for those who know, obviously I was a teacher at CCSD. I taught for 6 years.
Whoop, whoop.
An amazing position came open for me to work in a nonprofit,
Yes.
which is nonprofit life, right? But in a management position in a nonprofit, right?
I feel like you're like a little bit of Issa going on right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Working at We Got Y'all. Insecure reference.
Yes.
But essentially, the position, if you know anything about teachers, like teachers, you go in your room, you close your door, and like you get to do your thing. Like you don't really have to be accountable to many people. Like I had confidence that
50 million students.
right, but I mean, besides that sounds so bad. Yes, besides your students, but if you're doing the right thing and if you're a good teacher, like I felt like I am, and essentially was, like you don't have to be bothered by anybody. Like the solid teachers, like my administrators knew I was a solid teacher, so they weren't coming to bother me, right?
Good,
so
good.
like I didn't see them a lot, and that was it. I was in charge of myself in my classroom, and then take that from moving into a management position at a job that I had never done before. I never managed people a day in my life. Adults, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
who are
pretty hard.
responsible for tasks, who are responsible for things. So essentially, long story short, when the position came open, I felt like the only reason why I was able to bet on myself was because I put the preparation in I was ready to be in a management position.
Okay.
Like had this job come up 2 years ago, I don't think I would have been able to bet on myself because internally, like I'm the type of chick, like I know if I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Okay. We are not like taking any chances.
Baby
okay?
girl. I'm not ready.
We are not taking any chances because essentially, like I think I'm real enough with myself to know, like, look, I don't qualify for that. And like other people are attached to you, right?
Yeah.
So like if you fail, other people are failing.
Literally.
Right. So the only reason why I felt like I was able to bet on myself this time is I felt really prepared for this management position and able to take a role of like leadership. And I feel like the 6 years I spent, I essentially worked to get to that, you know?
Yeah.
But I just say that to say, for me, what it takes to bet on myself is like a sense of confidence.
Yeah. And your husband, because you wouldn't have never done it had I not.
I really would not
And
have.
you wouldn't know what life is like without those 6 bells a day and actually being able to take a lunch. Like Trisha didn't know. Like Trisha would get mad at me consistently for going out to lunch for work every day, right? But the moment she gets this job, I could not stop this woman from going to lunch. I could not stop this woman from going. What's the place called? Flower Child?
Yes.
Flower
Shout
Child.
out to Flower Child.
And anybody who knows how expensive Flower Child is for lunch, like she would be mad at me for spending $10.
That's
much,
so funny.
Much less $20, $30, $40.
Because all of a sudden my IG stories were like at some random cafe every 12 o'clock every day.
Every day. Every day.
Yeah. But essentially I bet on myself by taking this job.
Yes.
But really what I also wanted to say was I recently bet on myself. I actually didn't bet on myself. I was forced to bet on myself because of what the position requires. So there was this big event that I had to put on.
Yeah.
That I literally had been putting off because I was scared to death to put it on. And when I took the job, I knew that I had to put this big event on, but I just,
It wasn't real yet.
Right. It was not real.
Wasn't fully realized.
It was not real until my boss. I had that one-on-one meeting with my boss, and she's like, "You still haven't planned?" I'm like, "No." My boss is awesome though, and she's like encouraging, so that's a good thing.
It's Saturday, and you still haven't.
Right.
It starts Monday.
Right. So, hey y'all, if you haven't heard about Anchor, let me fill you in. It's the easiest way to make a podcast, and it's completely free. There are various creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will then take your content and distribute it so that it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcasts and get this with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. My boss was definitely looking at me sideways a couple of those days.
For sure. I'm sure she was. Yeah. So, I guess in my case, I guess I first just want to say thank you because I did kind of bet on myself a lot back in those insurance days.
Oh my God! Yes, that's true. That's true.
I bet on myself, to leaving a stable job and a consistent job, and I was like, I'm gonna go after this because I think I can do it.
Yeah, you needed something more.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I think thank you for sticking with me through the ups and downs of it. Through the successfulness of a lot of the things, but definitely the downside of some of them. But I think it really tests. I think when you go out and you kind of bet on yourself, it really tests your security. Right,
100%.
Your security in yourself, your security in your job, right? Of having a consistent paycheck sometimes, or even betting on yourself, like with a relationship, right? Like it's like, or relationships, right? You're losing the security of knowing that I have these people to fall back on.
Right. That's a good point. And the other thing that I was thinking as well was, obviously, I'm a person who said I wouldn't bet on myself and you would.
Yeah.
I wonder, that made me start to think about why wouldn't I bet on myself? Mm-hmm. And with people who don't bet on themselves versus people who do, is there a certain characteristic? Is there a certain quality? Or what do you think is the difference between somebody who's willing to bet on themselves and somebody who's not?
Just from a personal perspective, I don't know. For me, I think I just have like absolutely blind faith in myself. So I don't even know. It could be ignorance on my part. It could be me being aloof to who I actually am. But I think it just takes the want to, right, or the trusting that your preparation, you prepping for this situation, or I guess trusting your own preparation.
But I feel like I am somebody who naturally would not take risks and bet on themselves, and you are. And to me, that's who you've always been, right? You didn't start betting on yourself when you and I got together and you wanted to do insurance,
this
right?
Is true.
So to me, was that a skill or something inside of you that was nurtured? And do you when you think about other people who are that same way that do you think you share a common characteristic?
Well, I mean, you guys might hear the story probably in another episode, but if I think back all the way to like third grade at Gerheim, like that was
your elementary school.
My elementary school, like that was being an entrepreneur and starting a business was something that the school taught us and preached to us. And I remember, like we had these things called going to town day, and where you would actually get a business and you could make your own Gerheim gold was our money or our currency, and that was probably the best time of my life. Like I used to love it if anybody remembers those Sports Illustrated for kids books, where they used to have the little paper cards, and I know everybody was so into collecting baseball cards and basketball cards. So I would actually get them laminated, actually sell them at a rated price that was like way higher than what of course I was getting them for free, but I was selling them for like 30 Gerheim gold and kids were buying them. So that was just something, like all it took was somebody to like cultivate that in me once, and I was like ready to do it, for the rest of my life. So
you think you can attribute that all the way back to your Gerheim days or your elementary school that literally taught and encouraged entrepreneurship?
I think so. I think my grandfather was an entrepreneur on my mother's side. My father always preached like entrepreneurship or having my own. He would always tell me like I'm not he would always say that making regular man's money isn't like what you're meant to do, Aaron. Like you're meant to make more money than regular working man money. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, so you need to really think about that. I was like, my dad wasn't the best at communicating, but that's how he said it. That's literally how he said it. I'm like, so what's more than a working man? Like either way, you're working, but it didn't make sense to me at the time, But
yeah, on the flip side of that, I was trying to think like, what are the characteristics that have made me not bet on myself for taking risks.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm the type of person, or maybe I have the characteristic of like not liking change and change being intimidating.
Oh.
Like I like to be in a rhythm and I like to know what's coming next, right?
Right.
Obviously, I think like if I'm thinking back to situations, I think like part of it may have to do with my mom passing away unexpectedly, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, like that totally threw a wrench in my whole life, right? So anything that feels familiar to that, or anything that feels, kind of like that, is a no-go for me.
Well, I think you're a person who likes to control everything.
Yes, but I think that stems back to situations in my childhood where I was out of control. Like I said, like my mom passing away, right? Like that's something you totally can't control. And so from then forward...
Well, I mean, but we're both in similar situations. Like, you lost a parent young. I lost a parent,
Well, you lost a parent when you were in...
17.
Yeah. So all that I'm saying is that was like... Those formative years, I lost my mom in like middle school, right? So where you're really understand, like I was 13 years old.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess what you're right. Like things were a little bit formed, but not so much so. Like in middle school, you're still figuring it out.
That's true.
By the time you're in high school, you're 17. Not that you have it all figured out, but like
Well, I think but I think losing like I don't know if it's like the same sex parent thing, like but I get mothers are like a core of the family,
right?
So that kind of would shake your level of I guess willingness to lose control in those situations. But I think one thing, I'm not saying that you lack this, but have you identified like a passion of yours that you would want to?
Oh yeah.
Because I think that's a way of like kind of betting on yourself, right? If you're passionate about what you're doing, right? Like
I think I was definitely passionate about teaching. I loved going into the classroom every single day. I think obviously towards like the end, like after 6 years of doing it, and I went straight from teaching from college to teaching. Right. Like that was it. That was the only job I had ever had.
Right.
So after 6 years of doing that and evolving a little bit more, I wondered what else was out there. And so that led me to step out of the classroom. Like I wanted other skills. But I think other than that, like I absolutely love teaching every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know that it wasn't I didn't find my passion. I just think it really had to do with the type of person that I was. Like I really like to know what's coming next, bro.
If I'm being honest, like how can you really monetize teaching? Like how can you like make
tutoring?
You can do tutoring, but I mean, I'm saying tutoring is cool and all, but like, do you have like how do you build a clientele from tutoring?
What do you mean? Word of mouth.
But I'm saying like I'm just saying like, and I'm thinking about it as in terms of like as a community, right? I feel like sometimes when we go to college, Black people go to college, right? We get skills that don't necessarily. Like if you go to be a therapist, right? Now being a therapist is really popular, and going to see a Black therapist is really a good thing, definitely, right? Yeah. But that's not necessarily something that a lot of African American people have access to, right? So then how can you help your kid? I always think about how what I'm doing affects my community, or how you
teaching. I feel like is the ultimate.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Yeah, no, it is, and it changes the mind and all this, and molds the mind. But I guess I was thinking like, how do you make a business? Like you think about it, you're like, oh, I want to be.
Like because of my job, I have ever thought to like, how can I make a business?
And tutoring costs money, right? I mean, you could do it for free, but tutoring event, like if you're really trying to monetize it, it's going to cost money, right? So
No, I feel like... No, I don't feel like that's accurate. I see what you're saying, though, in the sense that, like, obviously as a teacher, maybe you're, like, you're set in what you're going to do because the system for teaching is already constructed, right? There's not much outside of teaching, bringing yourself that you have to do because we have a whole system of education. We have a whole business already in place for that.
Exactly.
So why would I think to be an entrepreneur? I get that point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think so. I agree with that it's already established, so why would I think to bet on? But there's other ways to bet on yourself inside your job as well, right? Like stepping up into leadership roles, right? And doing that. And ultimately, when the question I had posed to myself before, like, why do I not bet on myself more? I actually thought about this a little bit more, and I think I've bet on myself more than I've thought.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In my college days, there were a lot of things that I bet on myself with and took steps forward, but it was always reluctantly. It always took for me somebody to realize in me that it was a good quality that I had. Like, for example, being the president of the Black Student Union. I talked about that in Cortland's episode. Like, I would have never ran for BSU if it had not been for my advisor saying, like, look, Tresha, like, this is a good spot for you. You need to run for president. Do you know what I mean? This job that I'm currently in, I would have never, ever stepped into this job or even applied for this job had the previous program director who's in it. I
was getting ready.
If y'all are watching this on YouTube, Aaron was ready.
I was fixing my hair, and I was about to be like, "Shit, I wouldn't have gone after this job had my husband not said."
No, actually, you were a great factor. But even before you, the program director, shout out to her. She actually said, "Tresha, I think you would be awesome for this role. Nobody knows and loves this program like you love it. You should apply." Do you know what I mean? For me, I think sometimes I'm so like boots on the ground and like just working that I don't really notice that, you know, I have as many good qualities as I think I have, you know, which is kind of good. I think I stay humble.
Do you think people who like bet on themselves, like they just constantly think that like they're just the cream of the crop?
I mean, my real only reference to that, I feel like, is you and Kanye West with his recent President 2020 commercial.
Okay. So what I will not take is a slander of me of putting me in the same sentence as Kanye. Like, are we both Geminis? Do we both share a birthday? Yes, but that is it.
That is not it. There's a real trend between you, Donald Trump, and Kanye. To be real, in that sense, that blind betting on yourself. Aaron thinks that he can do it all. And I'm
all I need is YouTube.
He thinks he's a handyman.
Oh, I am.
He built our kids a bunk bed that almost broke 3 times.
That was in the beginning stages. I didn't know what I was doing.
He's put up so many TVs crooked, but he will swear
I put up TVs
that he
crooked?
is the source.
So what has happened, and what happened? See, this is what's wrong with people who don't bet on themselves. They see you in the stages of you learning, and then they look. And this is a teacher, by the way. Hold on. This is a teacher, by the way, that sees you in your stages of learning and judges you for the rest of. We have been together for 5 years, and the crooked TVs and the bunk beds all happened in year 2 and 3.
Actually,
what? Everything else has been everything since then has been flawless.
Those bunk beds just happened like a year ago.
Oh, well, Walmart bunk beds are stupid. We should have never bought them. But go ahead.
No, go.
I guess I was thinking like just as we were talking, like I was thinking to myself like what and when or what times have I ever not betted on myself, or what has made me not do that? Like, what was the cause of me not betting on myself, right? And every time I think about times where I haven't bet on myself or I haven't been confident, like shout out to Joe Piggy, but one thing that he's always said is God will bless your preparation. And anytime that I have not been prepared, anytime that I have that I haven't actually put in the actual work, that is exactly when, what I have done is told people that I will do it and that I can do it, but I've totally not prepared and I've totally fell on my face flat.
Right.
And so of course it looks like that I have no follow through. It looks like that I have absolutely no whatever. But I had the confidence, but I think in my me not preparing, like it came to the realization that in that time that I had to prepare, that I wasn't ready for that that moment. Right now, over promise and under deliver. You know, and I think that's something that you definitely have to take into account if you're a person like me who are like, I think I'm a very much I'll say yes first before I ever think about it. I'm like, yo, I could do that. Like, no big deal. You know?
Yeah, a lack of being intentional and a lack of being prepared. And ready. Yeah.
But I think that goes along with the territory, like with people who are like me in that aspect, like people who are salesmen. You know, like it's like they see the big picture, but the details of the stuff sometimes it kind of gets lost.
Blurry. Yes, it's not really clear.
Yeah, but that's what you're here for.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Bring me back down to earth.
The other thing that I was thinking about was, would you agree with this statement? Not betting on yourself is a sign of insecurity.
Ooh. Well, you trying to be deep?
It's not really that deep.
No, but But
would you agree with that?
But yeah, that is a sense of insecurity. It shines a light on something where you're lacking.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, oh my God. Like,
yes.
You know, like I said, like my lack of preparation. Like if I don't prepare for something, well, that's definitely me like coming to the realization that I don't know something or that I am not good at it. That I've realized like, oh my God, I can't get it.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Like my lack of betting on myself has been solely because I have insecurities that I have not overcome yet. 100%. And I think like now, obviously, I mean, this episode, I mean, not that I didn't know this before, but this episode really, the thing that I think I'm being open and vulnerable with is the fact that I have a ton of insecurities, right? Man. And not all, man.
I felt that. That's all. I didn't mean it the way that it sounded, but when you said it, I was like, oh man, like I really felt that. Like,
and I think that's the reality of the situation. The other thing I'm going to touch back on that again, but the other thing I was thinking about was I wonder if there's any connection with me not betting on myself as being a woman. Like I think about how you blindly bet on yourself, and I wonder if there's any connection to the fact that you're a male.
Oh, that probably
I'm a female.
That probably, you know what, that is true because we do teach our daughters to be careful. We do teach our daughters to attach themselves to things that'll make them feel secure. Right, rather than being secure in their own strength. Right. Like I can see that. I could definitely see that, and definitely in my me being a male. Right, like there's definitely, you know, like, oh, you can go and do anything. You can go to the moon. You can,
and you've seen other people who are like you do it. So not only do people tell you it, or not only has it been instilled in you, you know, subconsciously, you've also witnessed men. You've actually seen it as well, is kind of what I'm saying. You know, whereas for women, that a lot of the times that's not the case.
So, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Now there is for sure.
So
a girl's almost 30. So,
but even still, like when you I'm just saying, like I'm saying, if you saw something now, you saw people like it's like almost the 1990s when there were millionaires being made like every other week, right? And then like that doesn't inspire you to be like, oh, I can go get this money.
Not if for so long you haven't seen anybody like you do it, right? Like I feel like the only woman billionaire that I know is Oprah. You know what I mean? And then at that point, if you don't see enough, then it becomes that's an anomaly. You know what I mean? Or that's a once in a lifetime thing that happens, and it happened to Oprah because she was. You know what I mean? You don't think of it as something that's regular, you know? And then I was thinking, obviously, about the way that we build up, or our lack of building up women and having that faith. We also, in not building them up, we also impregnate them with a lot of insecurities.
Yeah, that's true. That
you
is
know
very
what I
true.
mean? Like, we literally, like, for you, we build guys up, right? And we tell them, you know, you can be anything you want to be. And for girls, like you said, when we teach them to be cautious, we also are teaching them subconsciously to be self-conscious in a lot of different ways, right? Whether that's their weight or their skin tone or their hair or whatever that
Definitely. And I do want to I do agree totally with you when it comes to women, right? But I mean, I guess we break it down a little more. I think your generalization, for lack of a better term, but like with young black men, I think unfortunately a lot of us go the route of, hey, you're either going to be an athlete, or like it's almost like the way that you're going to be somebody special is to be an athlete or to rap a lick or sing a song or
but
dance.
at least, I mean, and not saying, obviously, like, to me, it's not about pitting two.
No. I'm just saying.
At least you're told that you can be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even for young black women, what do we tell them that they can be that special?
A lawyer. No, I'm saying, I'm thinking about like when I was thinking about like when I was a kid, like what did I hear people tell black girls they could do, right?
Nobody ever told me I could be a lawyer.
Yeah, well, I'm just
there
thinking.
Was that, oh, you're loud and you like to argue, maybe you should think about being a lawyer.
That's true.
And trying to say that was encouraging.
No, I mean, because we both went to, unfortunately, like we both went to like predominantly white schools, right? And there was only one black girl and one black boy in our classrooms, right? And I'm thinking about, if I think all the way back to third grade, and I think her name was Tiffany, right? Like Tiffany. I'm trying to think of the positive affirmations that they even gave Tiffany, right? And I can't even think about all the way up until like high school when they gave positive affirmations for black girls, and that's really
and that's kind of just my point, is not to like, you know, not to exaggerate or anything, but the reality is like when you stop and think about these things, they don't have to be your end point. They don't have to be where you stop. You know what I mean? Right. But in order to even get over those hurdles, you have to recognize that those insecurities are there, and you do have to acknowledge them. That's why, and that's just what I say. I think that my definite inability to take risk, I can probably trace every time I didn't want to take a risk back to an insecurity, right? Yeah. The difference with that is that everybody has insecurities, and what do you do in those moments? Do you let fear bind you, or do you use fear? Do you keep trekking along with fear in tow? You know what I mean? And I think that's a thing. That's a different thing. And I think as I get older, I realize that that's a skill that has to be developed. There are a lot of things I'm not good at, and there are a lot of ways that I'm insecure. But one, I need to start addressing those insecurities and realizing who God has called me to be and who I am, right? And then secondly,
preach.
You're stupid, babe. And then secondly, I just end up, even when fear is there, I still have to take that fear, put it on my back, and like let's hit it, you know. So
I just feel a in my spirit.
Babe, please don't do the black.
I just felt like a in my spirit.
Babe, please, not the black pastor voice again.
Well, guys, we're going to walk on water with Kanye West at Sunday service.
You're crazy. If you all don't know this reference, go back and watch episode 7 on the podcast on YouTube. So the other thing I was actually thinking about was what betting on yourself requires, and obviously you have to overcome those insecurities. But then I think the other thing, and maybe another reason why people don't bet on themselves, is because they don't want to be accountable to themselves. Right? Like it's a lot easier for me not to bet on myself and be under the tutelage of somebody else, or be under the, you know, command of somebody else, and then that way I don't have to take responsibility for myself. Or there are not that you don't have to take responsibility for yourself, but you don't have to be accountable to the things like self-discipline, or like if something goes wrong, you also have to take accountability for that too.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that's also a skill that you have to have, is you have to have that ability to take accountability for what happens when things go wrong as well. And I think a lot of us don't want that burden and don't want to have to do that soul searching either, you know?
Well, you make a really good point, because that really reminds me, and if I, don't beat me up too much.
No.
But I was listening to Dr. Umar, and he was saying how about black people or African Americans in this country, how we as a people have attributed voting to being the only way of change. Right, for us, right, or the main way of change for us, right. And he was saying, like, because of we've taken the monetary things that we can grab onto, like the Mercedes, the big house, and a predominantly white neighborhood, that we've taken that as freedom, right? But if we've never really experienced freedom, right? So the things that they give us that says that it's freedom is actually like falsehoods, right? And what we've done, or what we won't do as a people sometimes, is actually take the accountability of black economics, or taking on things that are actually move us away from actually saying that voting is the only way that we can create change, because that actually takes accountability, right? That actually takes everyone saying, hey, I'm going to take what percentage out of my check to put it towards everyone, right? So that everybody can eat, so that everybody can get out of poverty, so that everybody can begin to, so that we're not reliant upon the government that we're subjected to, right? And sometimes that takes having to be responsible for yourself. That takes the accountability that you have to call on oneself and say, yo, like, I have to do this, right? I have to be in the community. I have to, make sure that my neighbor is good. Make sure that my sons and my friends and whoever else is good. People who even aren't my friends, right? And that's a level of accountability that you need in order to really bet on yourself as a community.
It's like, I think of that makes me think of like countries who are colonized, right? And like sometimes it's easier to stay colonized or stay under somebody because like, look, they may not be the fairest, but they make sure we have the goods that we need, right? Like we make sure I have jobs. And when all of that infrastructure is erased, or when you bet on yourself and say, look, I don't need this level of command anymore over me, that requires that somebody else is doing the commanding, then you have to step up and do that. So I 100% agree with that. I don't know why you said, I love Dr. Umar.
Well, I think Dr. Umar's
radical, but
he's a bit radical. He
has some really good points.
But when he comes to actually hold black people accountable, I really do appreciate what he says, because it's important for us to hear that, right?
And I think that larger statement can definitely be applied to people other than black people, right? Like even when we think about socioeconomic status, 100%, and financial freedom too. So it makes me think.
Well, no, just in general freedom. Like, I mean, America. I mean, we're a democracy and all that other stuff, but we still take for granted what freedom really is, right? And we kind of, just like, like what we say, the whole people being able to trace your phone calls and cameras or whatever, right? That went, because we allow government to pass that, right? Because we deemed it would be safer to catch whoever our enemy was at the time, right? But in all actuality, we've given up our power in order for quote unquote safety, right? Because we don't want to do it ourselves, right? Or we don't want to be careful ourselves, right? So it's definitely on a social side, but it's also like a group, project, for sure.
This has made me think of, and what I'm going to do is like, and I challenge you too, babe. To like start thinking about ways.
Don't challenge me.
To just start thinking of ways that we can bet on ourselves, especially like for our kids, and especially just internally for that. You know what I mean? In what ways are we not betting on ourselves, and where do we need to take more?
For sure. I like that. So I just want to switch it a little bit. Like, what do you think God says about you betting on yourself?
Okay, now you're trying to keep us here for another 10 minutes.
I
would preacher voice. No, I think that's a great question. I think that God says to bet on yourself if you're doing His will.
Right.
I think the whole premise, I don't know that God would, I mean, that's such a good question. I think there's so many Bible verses that tell us who we are and how we're chosen and how we're loved and how there's nothing that we can do, to separate us from God's love,
Right.
which I think ultimately is super powerful. And I think I think God would tell us to bet on ourselves every single time, making sure that we're consulting him first.
Well, I think, and I'm not trying to be uber deep, but
Please.
I think the fact that God allows us to choose him is him betting on himself consistently with our relationship with him. Right? Like he constantly he's such a gentleman, right? That he allows us to not mess with him, to not pray to him, to not, he would allow that, right? But the fact that but then when you actually make the choice to choose him to die to self, right? You're actually like that.
He knows he is so good.
He knows that he's so good that it's like, and I used to give this example. Like when you look on TV, right? You barely see any Air Force or Navy commercials, right? You always see Army and Marines, like they're desperate. They want you, all right? But you never see the Army and the Navy people really putting out that many commercials.
No, the Navy and the who?
Our Navy and the Air Force, right? And I feel like that's how God is. Like God is like, because I remember when I was in the military, like I had the Army and the Marine guys always on me. But when I went to the Air Force was like, well, you came to me,
right?
Like. You already know what I'm in this. You already know what it is. So, when you make the choice, come on by. I'll be here for you, And I really feel like that's how God is. Like, I mean, a little less arrogant, but definitely, God is very much like he bets on himself. He proves him. He already knows that he's so good and that he's so faithful that once you really try him, that you will never
even be the same. You could even never.
Yeah, you'll never experience what you experience with God.
Right. That's hella true. Sorry, Lord. That's so true, though. And it reminds me of one of my favorite verses that talks about how God is faithful unto himself.
Right.
Like the reason why I'm faithful and the reason why I'm true and the reason why is because I'm going to be who I'm going to be.
Right.
And with that being said, I know that my faithfulness to myself will continue to, like you said, have you coming back or like realize that that this is the best thing for your life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that your own flesh that naturally would want to do the opposite of him would naturally die down to be in union with him. Like that's
and you would ultimately get that in line because it's so needed for you to be connected to him.
Exactly.
That's dope. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I put down a couple verses like in my notes or whatever, like Ephesians 1:11 says, through our union with Christ, we too have been claimed by God and his own inheritance. Before we were even born, he gave us our destiny, that we would fulfill the plan of God, who always accomplishes every purpose and plan in his heart. So
you can definitely bet on that.
Yeah, you could always bet that whatever you're doing in Christ and whatever you do in your life, as long as you submit it to Christ, that it will be done, right? Like,
yes.
That's like even with your prayers, when you pray, you already know, you have to already know that your prayer, that if it's in Jesus' name, that it's already done.
Yeah. Obviously, my favorite, the first Bible verse that I memorized is Psalm 16:3.
Okay.
I mean Proverbs, 16:3 that says, y'all heard it on my voicemail. If you
commit to the Lord in whatever you do, and he will establish a plan.
Establish your plans.
Plans, yes.
Yeah, so commit to like you said though, like submit it to God, right?
Yes.
Commit and submit to him whatever you do, and he'll establish your plans.
Yes.
Dang, okay, babe. You're really convicting me because I think about that, and I think about how that's my favorite verse. The first verse I ever memorized, the verse that I have on my phone, but I have an issue with taking a chance on myself, right?
Right.
And if I would commit whatever I'm doing to Christ, he will establish every plan. And that doesn't mean that it's going to work out the way that I think it's going to work out, but ultimately I know that it'll work out for my good.
Right.
In the end, whatever the situation is.
Right. Right, it's almost like what David, when he was like, "The Lord is my light and salvation," right? And he goes down, he's boasting about God, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get all the way down to the bottom of the scripture, and he's like, "I'd have fainted lest I not seen the goodness of the Lord," right? Like I would have. Even as good as I know God is, I still wouldn't have ever believed it had God not fulfilled it, or had God not done it, right? Like
revealed Himself in that way.
Yes. So a lot of times, like even in our belief, there's still a little bit of disbelief for the things that He is going to do in our lives.
Yeah, so. And we just have to, in order to keep going, even with our disbelief or our unbelief, we just have to continuously remind ourselves of who Christ is.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And like you said, that's the way that David got through. Like God kept showing him glimpses of who he was. Right. And then you call back to remembrance, like, who was your God? Like, I know where I was when I got saved. You know what I mean? Like, I know who I was, and I know what God brought me out of. You know? And that's important as well when you're thinking about betting on yourself and taking those steps. Ultimately, knowing that whatever the outcome is, everything is working for my good because I've submitted this to Christ.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes. So, God is faithful, and God is like, so He's so consistent, and He's so, He's a good father.
No, that's a good. I really love that you posed that question, and that you brought that side of it into things, because it puts a lot in perspective.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we could always rely on self, right? And betting on ourselves. But at the end of the day, really betting on ourselves is truly submitting to Christ.
If you're consulting Him.
If you're consulting Him, right. Everybody knows the scripture, God is going to do exceedingly and abundantly above all we could ask or think, or God will do exceedingly and abundantly above all we could ask or think. But we always forget the part where it says, according to the power that worketh within us. Right. And in order for those things to come to pass, we have to submit to the power of God, or the will of God, for those things to. Yeah.
That verse is the ultimate sign of relationship, right?
Yes.
He'll do exceedingly abundantly according to even connecting with us in there.
Yeah.
To the power that's working within us. What just an awesome sign of relationship.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, wait. So speaking of betting on yourself.
Yes.
That brings us to our next episode, our next interview.
Okay, yeah, but go ahead and tell them who the next interview is.
I am so excited for you all to listen to this episode about two people who have betted on themselves and their family consistently over and over again, and it has paid off for them in ways that you couldn't even imagine. On next episode, we have CJ and Cooper Hayes, 2/3 of Mackenzie Ray Creations.
Yes.
You guys, this is such an awesome business. I am really, really excited about next week's interview and episode, because there are so many things. So Cooper and CJ have started a small business out of
multiple small
right out of the creation of their own creativity and out of who they were.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about what it takes to start a business. They give a lot of tips and tricks on, like, how do you leverage social media, how they have used social media, and then consequently, they've talked about how they even got the idea for their small business. So if you're anybody who has ever thought about betting on yourself, or maybe you have a dream or something that you wanted to start and maybe something you haven't done creatively, next week's episode is the episode
for you.
Yeah.
For you.
100%. So
yay,
I'm very, very excited. And they're just fly.
They're extremely fly.
Yes.
And the other third, is it? Or the
one-third,
The other 1/3 is like an extremely beautiful, beautiful baby.
Yeah, so they started their business as something they want to pass down to their daughter eventually. And you guys will hear that in the episode tomorrow.
Yes. So, next week.
Next week, I'm sorry.
Yes. So, but that's the end of us. We hope that you learned something from us today. We hope that we were able to give away something today for you guys.
Please respond in the comments on our Instagram or in the YouTube video. Please write in the comments anything that stuck out to you, or any thoughts you had, or challenge us if there's something that you don't agree with.
We love to argue. We should have been lawyers.
Right. So, well, thank you all for tuning in to episode 9 of February 1 podcast.
And we'll see you soon.
We'll see you next week.
Later, Gators.
Love you guys. Peace.